So the genesis of the idea, this was Caleb Sima's idea. All credit to Caleb. He's the lead of the AI Trust and Safety Initiative, among other, many other things he's involved in. And he understood from talking with, many CISOs and many security practitioners that essentially we're all being asked in the security organizations to opine on LLMs. Can we approve this? Is this one okay for corporate use? Can we incorporate this one into our product, and so on and so forth, without having a lot of tooling and instrumentation, and really in many cases for security teams, even a lot of experience in saying this one's okay, this is not okay, this is why this one's okay, this was okay with guardrails and certain conditions and things of that, right? So that was his vision, to essentially fill this gap in tooling and capability across all our respective security organizations. He worked very hard to come up with organizations that could work together, with expertise in AI, in non-competing spaces, obviously supported and sponsored by the Cloud Security Alliance, and brought 4 very cool organizations to work together. From my perspective, that's one of the most exciting parts of this. It's not every day that you get to be part of something where four great organizations are coming together, building something impactful, meaningful, collaborating across our respective businesses and organizations, which is a big part of the fun.
I feel like the way that this industry adopts AI outpaced the ability to measure risks for AI. So I felt like this was very crucial for us to kind of take this black box AI asset that's called a model and try to break it down in a very simple terms and assess the risk in a way that enables security folks to give green light for those models for different projects, right? Because a lot of business partners are demanding speed and adoption of AI. And in order to do that, there's a lot of rigorous testing that needs to be done to assess the risk that's actually being inherited from this usage. In order to do so, the simplest thing to do is a security risk that would help to kind of gauge the risk and evaluate the risk for those models, and then you can make a mindful decision around what you want to accept as a risk and what you want to maybe provide some compensating controls to give a better position for yourself to defend against the risk from AI. And now that we're seeing a lot of evolving novel techniques to kind of like hack your way into an LLM that's not only a text generating machine, but also empowered with tools, with sensitive knowledge. It's very interesting how can an attacker use that with the prompt injection, jailbreaking techniques, data poisoning, and then use that to exfiltrate very sensitive data that's wasn't exposed before. So taking this very traditional risk of data leakage prevention and destructive capabilities, and now looking at it in a very wide perspective of AI, which just changes the whole thing. If we are looking at 5 years ago, software was very deterministic, and now in the end of AI, a lot of the behaviors were becoming non-deterministic, unpredictable, and a black box. So it's very hard for security practitioners to actually look inside the model, see if there's any risk that originates from this model, either by bias or lack of transparency, lack of security or safety controls, which we often see here in models. So it's very nice for me that we were able to encompass this all in a very simple score that would help make this decision drive better, secure environment to adopt AI.
Essentially, Risk Rubric is a rating system for testing, scoring, and rating large language models, right? So you had asked what people were doing before, and the answer was every organization had to have some bespoke way of doing this themselves, or kind of accepting that there was no good way to do this, right? So you could test models on your own, you could come up with your own grading scale on your own, you could just sort of gut check it. Like, I think this organization that's producing the model is trustworthy or not, so we're going to say it's okay to use it. But there really was no tooling, with which to do this. It was simply kind of craft your own best practice, right? So that's another reason why this is a great project, right? Because it's really introducing a consistent, scalable way for security practitioners and organizations to begin thinking about consuming LLM models and incorporating them throughout their products and their organizations and IT systems and so on, through the lens of consistent risk analysis.
I feel like this is a classic case where traditional frameworks just do not work for AI, because the notion of risk assessment has been accepted and adopted in the industry, as well as the leaderboard for performance of AI. So that helps kind of understand how performant is a model against each other, against another, but there's no actual leaderboard that would help you make wise decisions about the security aspect of things, right? One model might be adopted in a production environment for a healthcare company and might not be suitable for a different financial industry. Helping understand this, the risk that originates from these models, and performing kind of compensating control for your specific use case is something that can be done very easily with this framework. And this helps assess this and kind of make risk mindful decisions that would also cater for the business need in a very rapid manner without any rigorous testing, or everything is happening in the back end and in the leaderboard itself. And essentially each client that's using that can just use this very credible score that was not only backed by 3 security leaders, but also with a Cloud Security Alliance brand, and everybody's kind of using our expertise in encompassing what we think the risk is. And then CISOs can just adopt that in a way that would be an easy for them to kind of make decisions.
Well, AI is real, it's happening. Our role is to help our organizations move at the speed that the organization needs to move, using the technology that's relevant for the organization to use, and do that in a way that's not taking on unnecessary degrees of risk, right? Like, risk is just part of any business. The fact that you have a healthy, thriving, productive business, there's going to be risks involved. It's important for us in the security, practitioner space to elevate and make visible the risks that an organization's taking, so that things aren't happening below the waterline without people knowing, but so that things can happen and the business can move at the speed of business. Bespoke processes don't scale. There's not, AI is new, and companies absolutely need to adopt it and use it. It's relevant, for our respective organizations, but the skill set of assessing the risk is not new. It's not pervasive, yet throughout the industry. Some of the things that we endeavored to solve was, the scalability challenge, the how do we do rating in a consistent, normal way? How do we make it so that it's not this really delayed, high friction process when, say, a product team or an engineering team or an IT department comes to a security team and says, hey, help us select a model that's going to meet our needs but not be overly risky to adopt, and is this model okay? We want to be able to give prompt answers on the security team, right? These are our internal customers. We want to be able to give good quality answers as well, not just fast answers. So we want to make it easy for people to get this information from us, consistent in how we do the work, and these are real world challenges that exist without something like Risk Rubric to enable us to give good quality information promptly and consistently when asked about the risk levels and the trustworthiness of different models.
I feel like every good security leader would know that blocking AI does not work. It would just create a shadow AI that you cannot govern. And then when you're able to provide a rapid assessment of the model that's specific in use for your industry, for your specific use case, it's a very valuable enabler for the business. If you look at how models are being assessed today, you're able to see there's a lot of independence for data scientists. Right now, any data scientist can just download model from Hugging Face, and then connect it for specific sensitive data sets that just use for benchmarking. This is not production yet, right? This is my own Jupyter notebook. So this can potentially be a breach with a malicious model that's being used that would just exfiltrate the whole data to any C2 server that this model might exfiltrate. So it's very important to have a security control that would also enable data practitioners, not only a security team, but also kind of shift left the responsibility and enable data practitioners to see how they're able to assess the risk the moment that they're using it, or even before they're using that, and not just wait until the whole project is done and that the security review kind of kicks in, right? You want to incumbent security throughout the process and enable data practitioners to make this decision themselves.
And just like they can go to Hugging Face and get a model, now they can go to Risk Rubric and get a risk scorecard for that model. It can help them, to your point, right, with decision making and so on. If I think of essentially three core use cases, right? Use case number one, we already talked about. That's the security practitioner being asked to give an opinion or make a decision about the suitability or communicate risk elements of a model that the organization's considering using. The other one you mentioned, right? A data scientist who maybe doesn't have security practitioners in their organization, or for whatever reason, their security team, they're not engaged with their security team. They are now in a position to also make some informed decisions about which models they select and incorporate into their projects. Third would be organizations building models, right? Who previously perhaps had no reasonable kind of pragmatic way of coming to their own conclusions about the models they're developing and releasing into the world. So I tend to think those are all three use cases. And to your point, right? We're enabling any of those respective people to kind of self-serve and draw some conclusions, right? I think the fact that we are taking decisions that had to be made in the absence of information before, and now empowering people to make informed decisions is an impactful part of what we built.
And security leaders in one extreme might want to optimize over specific criteria, right? Like if you look at highly regulated industries like healthcare, you might want to make sure that there's no privacy concerns with the models that you're using. Mm-hmm. Whilst if we're using financial or other industries that are opting for transparency, explainability of the models, you might want to opt for these models. And then having kind of like a risk pillar that you're able to gauge and see what is the specific model that you're using, how is it performing against this risk pillar, is very helpful to kind of adapt to your specific use case in your industry.
I agree. And that's maybe there's a great segue to the risk pillars, right? Because that's something we collaborated on together and built, working at like 2 a.m. in the morning for me and 7, 8 p.m. in the evening for you. So the concept is one thing, right? Okay, so we want leaderboards, we want a risk scorecard, we want to be able to raise visibility of different factors of LLM risk and LLM trustworthiness. But what are they? Right at this point, it's just like a concept. We didn't have yet the fact that we were going to do ratings in addition to scores. We didn't have yet that we were going to do transparency, security, privacy, and so on, because. I guess, spoiler alert, we have 6 pillars that we, grade and rate models on. The world has more factors than 6 that you can evaluate a model on. So we had to narrow this down to something that's going to be reasonable and realistic and pragmatic, right? And so over time and conversations with us and others, part of the project, research and so on, we essentially came to the conclusion that the 6 that made the most sense from rolling up the others into sort of like highest order conditions are transparency, being able to know, where your model came from, what the data set, that went into it is, and so on and so forth. Security, privacy, because a lot of people conflate security and privacy as the same thing, but while there's some overlap, there's also some respective differences. Safety, this is a big element that again has some overlap with privacy, some overlap with security, but also is its own distinct thing. Reliability, you may have heard the fact that you give a model a prompt and it sometimes returns back the same thing, sometimes returns back different things. So being able to get the same things back is important, as well as the reputation of where the model's coming from. Is our sixth pillar, and it was a fun journey to come to that conclusion, as well as how we did some of the rest of it as well. One aspect of drawing our conclusions about model risk relies on what Hayes Labs has contributed, right? They have expertise in red teaming models. It's this notion of how do we want a model to behave? What are the things we want a model to not do, right? They've created this notion of a code of conduct. So we leverage that notion of the code of conduct. There's one that gets applied to all of the models that we test as part of Risk Rubric. And then, sort of one set, in order to draw conclusions on these 6 pillars, it's clear that you need various facets of information, right? So this, even before any product was built, our conversations we had. So one facet is actual red team testing of the models. Let's send prompts. Let's see if we can get the model to behave in ways against our code of conduct and so on. So when you realize that open source data comes into the picture of grading, whether it's a vendor or a model or et cetera, you realize pretty quickly you need a way to collect that data and analyze that data. Noma awesomely built and when you just put a name on it, Gall, created this the OSINT collector. And then you get a point where you've got some open source data signals that you're collecting. You've got a collector that you can collect a certain set of data, and then you can add more to it over time, right? And kind of enrich your data set, because the MVP is the first state of a product, right? In many cases, essentially, MVP is like a conversation with your customers, your users, right? It's their first experience with your product. They're gonna give you feedback. You're gonna make adjustments and fine tune it. And that's fully what we expect to happen with Risk Rubric, like any other product. But Gall was like, hey, I've done this before, I can build one, knew that we needed one. And that was like, I don't know if I've ever told you, but I felt a combination of elation, relief, and I had met such a kindred spirit. And I'm like, thank God we know someone who's part of the project, who can do this, who's prepared to do this, who gets this and knows that this is an essential part of getting to our end state. So I've never said it before. Thank you. That was awesome. I was so excited at 2, 3 in the morning when we were talking about this stuff. You introduced the concept of hey, in addition to scores, let's do ratings, because ratings are a bit more flexible. They give us some versatility, instead of saying this is a 83 and this is an 84, and everyone sort of getting fixated on well, why wasn't it quite an 84? We'll say, look, this is a D, this is an F, this is an A, right? And it's a lot easier, I think, to introduce that, as well as to be the consumer of that. So those are, some of the important, significant contributions from Noma Security. Harmonic Security is another organization as well. They essentially did all of the front end, right? So what users see and users experience is not, the direct output of red teaming. It's not the direct output of OSINT data collection or anything like that. UI, UX, the parts of the application that literally humans are interacting with, that's all from Harmonic. CSA brought everyone together, right? Gave us all a reason to join and convene and do this. Introduced us all to each other. It's not like we were all, a dozen or so friends just sitting around having cocktails going hey, we all have an idea, let's go build it together. I mean, sometimes that happens. That's not what happened in this case, right? Caleb built these relationships and got us communicating all under the umbrella of the Cloud Security Alliance. And we leveraged some of the thought leadership work that CSA does as well. Their AI governance guidance papers and guidance documents and so on informed my thinking when I'm thinking through from the product side, what are some risk factors, what's some of the taxonomy that exists that we want to leverage. So not only did they, kind of were the glue that brought our relationships together, they've also, introduced, essentially guidance documents that became part of what informed, how we did what we did.